What is up, people of the Marvel Cinematic Universe? Welcome to my Moon Knight finale review and breakdown, and recap, of course, as we go through the breakdown. This was an interesting way to end the series, especially that post-credit scene. We went full out in certain areas. We got things kind of right with predictions, some things like, you know, what's going to go on in the future. And one ultimate thing I could kind of leave this series off with in terms of the way that post-credit scene ended things. It's kind of like this show could almost end here in a way, even though there can easily be a continuation at the same time, with obviously that ending with Arthur Harrow and Jake Lockley. I mean, I hope that you saw that post-credit scene. If you haven't, go back and watch it now. Go through those credits and check it out. But of course, let's not waste any more time and go through this. And right at the beginning, of course, we pick up with Marc laying in the water, shot, but no blood, you know, no blood in the water or anything. I mean, I suppose this is, you know, kind of Disney. Arthur Harrow's men bring him out, you know, he places the scarab on top of him, and he kind of foreshadows Jake, really, because he knew there's other people within Marc Spector, if you will, because he mentions Mark's name, Steven's name, but also whoever else may be in there, which obviously I think from this moment onwards we were all wondering when Jake was going to come out. Before I get too ahead of myself there, we have Layla take out this guy. I find moments like this is what I was kind of feeling with this finale. It landed in a lot of areas for me. There's so much I enjoy about this show, like Oscar Isaac and the kind of mythology we're getting into here, if you will. But I felt like there was quite a few contrived moments. I would say a large part of the Layla stuff, you know, when she just took out that guy. I'm pretty sure you would hear that within that small tomb, and I don't think this is even going into nitpicky territory. There's several times in the episode as well where Arthur Harrow was just kind of looking behind, and I thought, okay, you know, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt, and he's probably aware that she's following him. But then later on in the episode, he's just like, oh, you know, somebody's freed Khonshu, go find them. As if, like, he wasn't aware. So, there's a few moments like that in this finale. Again, it's kind of that mixed split audience thing for people who watch me. There's some people who do agree that that affects, you know, the writing quality. There's some people who just don't watch it for that crap. Like, they don't care if there's contrived bits and bobs here and there. It's just more, oh, this is all fun and entertaining. Which it is at the same time. But I do feel like this episode suffered from a bit of that. But perhaps, you know, because this episode was a really, well, not really short, but it was 44 minutes. I felt like they kept cutting corners in a few areas, if I'm being very honest there. Then we had that moment where Arthur rocks up and we have the Egyptian patrol agency all very wary and is like, you don't need to see my papers. I need to see your soul or whatever. And then all of them just started getting sucked up. I was like, do you not need to do a little balance thing anymore? You could argue that it's because he has the Ushapti or whatever it's called with him, that he's a little bit more powerful. It just felt like he could just do it and then just suck the souls out. And I'm guessing the other guards' souls were taken because they were going to do some evil maybe, and there was only like one guard left who, as he says himself, this is the face of a good man. We got that line again. Again, more and more unexplained things, and it gets more consistent throughout the episode a little bit later. Like, Armmit technically was still confined in this moment, but Arthur Harrow was more powerful. So around this time, we have Layla, who's hitched a ride, is trying to go after Harrow to get revenge. We have Torowet basically saying that, you know, break Khonshu's Ushapti, you know, you can bring Marc back. She offers her to be her avatar, and I understand why she said, no, I'll fight him on my own, because she has, like, this preconceived notion about avatars, and, you know, for example, Khonshu wasn't really any good for Marc. But the message was indeed conveyed that she does need to get Khonshu free. But again, in this moment, I just don't think I like how much that they included Arthur was looking back. Like, there's so many times where he was just like, what's going on over there? It's like NPCs in a video game when you're sneaking around them. It's like, alert! Oh, wait, you creep a little bit slower. For some reason, they don't notice you, even if you creep up around them. It was that kind of, it just reminded me of that. Video gamers, you will understand what I mean by that, I'm sure. And then we have the dumbass Egyptian gods. You know, I just have to say it because, I mean, I guess they had, you know, reasons for not trusting Khonshu that go back thousands of years, but, you know, it's like there's a disturbance in the Force. You know, you felt it too. Someone is trying to release Armmit. Oh, and then Arthur Harrow comes in. So this is the part where I found it a little bit confusing. And again, this is kind of how I feel about the finale in general. Entertaining, but one bit after another just is kind of paving the way because they have to get to the next bit and they're not going to lean into how, what, why this is happening. Unless I'm being stupid, please do correct me. But in this moment, we have Arthur Harrow literally saying, you're judges, not warriors. This doesn't need to happen. He was basically saying, you don't need to fight me. You're judges, not warriors. Let's not do this. But in this moment, you know, that's kind of what happened. They were all trying to fight him. We didn't really see it other than when he just kind of flung the staff beam at them. And I was just kind of thinking to myself, was anyone else thinking this? We have multiple Egyptian gods. Multiple Egyptian gods. Multiple. I'm just going to say that again. Multiple. And one of them, you know, has little freaking laser Zeus beams coming out of his hands. But either way, multiple Egyptian gods against one guy who I want to say isn't even the Avatar yet. Like, Armmit hasn't even come out of her Shabti statue. I could maybe get by understanding that maybe because she's with him in the statue form, he's a little bit more imbued with power. I know he's got the artifact staff, but I just don't agree with how powerful he was to go up against 3 or 4, or maybe more, I can't remember, other gods when he isn't even an Avatar at this point, when Armmit isn't even released from the statue. I just thought, oh, of course. Then when you cut back to it, they're all laying on the floor like, ah, God. Like, you're meant to be Egyptian gods for crying out loud. Avatars. Why did you just get bested by a guy who isn't even the Avatar of Armmit yet? I can't keep rambling about this, but it's, I think, as simple as that. I don't really understand. Yes, he's got a staff that's got imbued with powers, but that up against the power of that of a god who has imbued their human with the gifted abilities of their respected god because they are the Avatars, doesn't match up to me. But again, they had to get on with the episode, so Arthur wrecked them. Because it just had to happen. That's what I mean. I think that's fair criticism. But this is where he break the Shabti and, you know, Armmit is released. And, you know, all of this is fair enough. I just wish they just, like, broke it first and then they wrecked the gods. That would have made more sense to me. Armmit tells Harrow that his scales are unbalanced. And I like what dialogue he had here because it just does show how willing and dedicated he is to this. It's not selfish because he was willing to accept whatever. Like, so fine, just suck my soul up or whatever then. But then Armmit was kind of a hypocrite and just looked past his sins in an effort to, you know, just have him as her avatar because beforehand her avatar that ended up getting her in stone, the Abshapti situation, was a dude or gal who had the perfect balance scale. So she's like, maybe this time, you know, I'd be better suited to a guy who not only brought me back, but who has imbalanced scales. So then we have Layla find Khonshu's Abshapti. She destroys it. He's now free, offers her the role of Moon Knight. Now, this was only done because at this point, Marc, to him, you know, was dead, and he was indeed dead, so he didn't really have any other choice, despite what he says at the end to Arthur Harrow about Layla not being the one to take over. At this point, Marc was dead, so it was like, may as well offer it to Layla. The plan now is to rebind Armmit, and only an avatar can do it. But that's when we cut to the field of reeds. And this is one of my favorite moments in the episode because, you know, we have Marc basically achieve that inner peace he's kind of always wanted. And I was really wondering how Steven was going to go back. I thought maybe they would need the help of an avatar. I was thinking if Marc goes back there to the sands, why wouldn't he just turn into sand? And I have to admit, like, for 3/4 of the time I was thinking that. I was like, okay, he escapes the field of reeds, not escapes, but leaves. Now he's on the sands. I was like, why isn't he turning into sand? But he did start turning into sand. So I was like, ah, nice one, nice one. But this, and again, this is one of my favorite parts because, you know, Osiris opens the gates as Marc basically confesses his love for Steven in terms of that line where he says, you know, you are the only real superpower I ever had or needed, or whatever he says. He ends up freezing into sand as he places his heart into Steven's hand. Again, I'm very soppy. That was very beautiful. And even though they should have arguably been lost to the sands forever, as Tarawet said when she came in, as Osiris, I guess, was being dramatic and sending a little tsunami of sand, said, oh, Osiris, you softy. So that display of affection was like, okay, boys, you know, I'll resurrect you. Just go through the gate. Even though we didn't see Osiris, it was still him. He was the one who allowed this to happen. So they're pretty lucky. That little display of love and care for one another on behalf of Marc and stuff was the very thing that got them a path back to getting reanimated, if you will, resurrected. So this is where Moon Knight now, as a result, just gets up and flies to super travel to stop all of this from happening. We also have Tarawet and Layla basically merged together and agree to be a temporary avatar. Even though this is meant to be temporary, I do wonder if Layla kind of likes being this, and not to mention Tara doesn't seem like a bad god. She seems nice. The way that the MCU have done her has been a typical kind of MCU comedic kind of way. Regardless, like, I don't see why Layla wouldn't really enjoy keeping this superpower mode on, because as she said, I have a fabulous costume in mind, and I really felt like the actor did a good job of when all of a sudden, you know, she snapped into the avatar mode of Tara Wet. Like, that was really good. I'm not gonna lie, like, she completely changed her whole demeanor. Just like how a lot of people are a big fan of how Oscar Isaac does that with Steven and Mark. I would say it was very jarringly different, and that was pretty cool. Now, this is when Layla punches her way out. We get to see her suit. I really like the wings. I really like the blades. The CGI in this episode, it wasn't spectacular. Again, everyone has different standards for that, but for me, I felt like consistently throughout Moon Knight, I've noticed a bit more of that kind of Play-Doh-y kind of CGI, not mega transparent. I'm not going to ramble about this for too long, but you know, when like a car kind of looks more like a video game car, that kind of vibe. But you know, complaints aside there, it's not really that serious. I thought she looked really cool. I guess this is somewhat of her Scarlet Scarab-esque kind of get-up, if you will. I mean, after all, there was a scarab there, but it's technically not Scarlet Scarab, if you will, but clearly they wanted to do a bit of an homage to that. This is where we got a lot of action in the episode. You know, we had freaking Khonshu and Armmit going at each other like big kind of giant form. We have Steven pop out every now and again between the fight against Arthur Harrow and Moon Knight. We then have Layla swipe in and just use her freaking wings to deflect bits and bobs and just go ham herself. I did wonder for a second, and it was really kind of sweet of how Mark, or should I say Steven, said, really jazzed to show you these new skill sets that we have. She was like, go and then show me. And he could do all of these things. Maybe it is a joke back to that joke he said about muscle memory, because earlier on he didn't have the skill set that Mark did with flipping and being able to do all these things, but all of a sudden he was like a freaking ninja. So I guess that is just because he's the same person technically. But then why didn't that apply before? Maybe it's because he found his confidence now and there's a bit more of an equilibrium between Mark and Steven. I absolutely loved that grapple hook moment of Moon Knight just coming and slapping Arthur Harrow. That was such a cool Batman moment, if you will. We got that kind of corny, you know, I get it. It was like a representation moment. It's like, are you an Egyptian superhero? It's like, yeah. You know, it was just very plainly pointed out, but, you know, it's important for representation. But this is where we had that moment where Harrow was plunging the freaking staff into Moon Knight's symbol, and it's like it was draining, like, his power as well as his soul. We had Layla pinned down because of a crescent dart that just kind of got her stuck there. She was being shot at. I guess those goons just wanted to keep firing at her wings instead of her legs. You know, it's just like, we could just aim down here, but let's not do that. But maybe a super suit would have just bounced those off anyway. I don't know. Which is when, because there is no other option, and what Jake seems to be, the kind of fight or flight mode, like, even though Mark comes out and protects Steven, and even now Steven's got a bit more confident, Mark's there, but this is when Mark has, like, no other option. He, like, you know, rolls back his eyes, and that's when Jake comes out. He is truly the instinctual fight or flight personality that comes out. And then it snaps back to Mark, and it's just like holding the freaking axe staff pointy part or against Arthur's head. Everyone's just, like, you know, decimated. I would love to see how that actually went down, but clearly at this moment it is acknowledged again by Mark by saying, Steven, that wasn't you, was it? They are aware that there is someone else, but they're not really diving into that. That would have been pretty cool. I kind of half expected, even though they're aware that there's someone else doing this violence that they've not only witnessed here, but, you know, beforehand as well. If they just kind of like, who is this? You know, who are you? Or he shouts to himself. I thought in this moment, that's where, you know, he would have come out and been like, it's me, Jake. Or just, I know that would have been a bit too cliche, but I half expected a bit more investigation from Mark and Steven as to who the hell this other person is. This is when they take Harrow to the temple. I'm just assuming that they both know the exact words to the spell because they're avatars, and that gives them some kind of inbuilt knowledge. Because, you know, I understand, you know, Layla knows quite a bit, but does Mark know enough about Egyptian stuff? I don't know. Either way, I'm guessing it's because they're avatars that they knew the exact thing of what to do in this moment. That's when Armmit gets put back into Harrow's body, and problem is more or less solved. And then it just jumps to Khonshu pretending to release Mark. And this could have all been over here because, you know, Mark refrains from killing Arthur Harrow. Says that Khonshu can do it if he wants to, but I'm guessing there's some kind of godly rule where they can't literally kill a mortal being themselves, because otherwise he would, and he wouldn't have got Jake to do it later on. This is where we have Steven and Marc back in the psychiatric ward. I was wondering what was going on here initially, but it's kind of like, you know, capping off that story to Dad for when, you know, he woke up. Like, now there's that somewhat equilibrium, as I said. Like, there's two fishes floating around in the same tank. It's just like, ever since they hugged, more now than ever, they are aware of each other. Steven now knows his origin as of last episode. It's kind of like best buddies, but living in the same, you know, apartment and bedroom all the time. Did anyone else think as well, when we were in Dr. Harrow's office again, when Oscar Isaac was flipping between Steven and Marc, back and forth between different words in the sentence, I thought then eventually Jake would come out, but they still didn't do it. I felt like they knew what they were doing there. Quite a few moments where you would expect Jake Lockley's reveal to somewhat come out, but it just didn't happen, right up until obviously the end credits of the episode. Now, I was thinking, okay, but how did he end up back in London? Nobody's questioning that. I mean, I know it did end with him tripping, and like maybe they could have got to that. That's where season 2 could pick up. But there is now missing time of how Marc and Steven don't even know how they got back into London, because they just woke up from kind of that dream. But this is where we do get that post-credit scene. And as much as I love this, I kind of have a bit of kind of, you know, confusion and, you know, is this an issue or isn't it an issue situation? So we have Arthur in the psychiatric ward, and we have Jake come in, and as soon as I saw even the blurry flat cap, I was like, oh, this is obviously Jake Lockley. He's infiltrated that hospital to the point of where he killed the receptionist. He wants Arthur Harrow. He's taking him out there, no matter what, into his little, you know, limo, take on the taxi from that of the source material. But regardless, what I was kind of wondering is, so I'm guessing Layla and Marc, after relinquishing the Moon Knight suit, which was never really done, but, you know, Khonshu pretended to free Marc and Steven, they took Harrow, I mean Layla and Marc, took Harrow to an insane asylum, or a hospital if you will, for then Jake Lockley to take over Marc and Steven, come in and kill him in the limo, with Steven/Marc and Layla still thinking Harrow is in the hospital. But my issue with this, and again, I don't think this is nitpicky, they play Arthur being a bit strange, saying like, oh, sand, you know, and there's a rubber ducky on the table. But then when he's in the limo and talking to Khonshu, he seems fairly mentally competent, you know, until, you know, obviously Jake kills him. So it's just like, their solution for Armmit being trapped within the vessel, the Avatar, was to put him in a hospital. I want to know how that worked. I want to know why Arthur couldn't just get out, you know, whenever he wanted, because I just think that's sketchy. So you're just going to dump him off at a hospital, and the Avatar of Armmit could just get out and find a way to release Armmit and truly, you know, do what he was doing before. Now, again, the defense for that is clearly, you know, he's not fully mentally there. You know, he's in the hospital. He seems a bit incoherent. But what confused me about that once again is when he's in the car, he seemed like, Khonshu, you can't hurt us. And when, you know, Khonshu was going on to explain it, you know, Harrow was just like, yeah. Up until when, you know, Jake Lockley was flexing and just like, okay, don't kill me. So, do you see my issue? Maybe I'm not articulating it the best way. It just seems a bit so disjointed. And I know that's the point with Jake taking it over, but what I mean by disjointed is just the resolution of Arthur Harrow, putting him in a hospital. Is he coherent? Isn't he coherent? Did they frame that he was needing to be psychiatrically committed and he's not actually psychiatrically, mentally, you know, debilitated or anything? I don't know. It's just a bit confusing because he seemed to know everything about everything and was mentally competent when he was back in the car talking to Khonshu. Either way, though, this is where Khonshu really did reveal those plans by saying that Marc Spector truly believed that after he and I parted ways, I wanted his wife to be my avatar. He says, why would I need anybody else when he has no idea how truly troubled he is? That's when we get the screen come down, and Jake Lockley says, in Spanish, today is your turn to lose, and he kills Arthur Harrow. And thus, I guess, you know, when the avatar dies, I'm assuming that's if the god dies, because the god doesn't get released into Ishapti. So does that mean Armmit's now just floating off into the... dissipates as well into the wind? I don't know. Either way, though, this explains the missing time between the end of when Marc gives up the suit, puts Arthur into the hospital, and gets back to London. But ultimately, yeah, I just feel like it's a little bit dodgy to me, because Arthur Harrow seemed fairly competent in the car when seeing Khonshu, so I don't really know what they were trying to get at there with him being a bit incoherent in the hospital and just leaving him to his own devices. I just feel like if I was Arthur Harrow, I'd try and escape. hey, like, they've left me here. I could probably get out. I've got Armmit in me. I'm going to try and figure out a spell or a way to get her out of me again. But no, I'm just going to wait here until Jake Lockley comes in. Either way, though, to be fair, that hospital is in London, so you could argue Layla and Marc were conscious, or should I say Marc and Steven were conscious getting back to London, and then just Jake took over to go kill Arthur Harrow. And I also liked, obviously, the suit that Khonshu was wearing, a nice reference to that of the source material. But again, either way, this ending was cool because it definitely sets up a season 2 if everything, you know, goes that way according to plan. Oscar Isaac, if he's happy to come back. But also, it can be an end to that story with Arthur Harrow, and it's being like, oh, there was another personality the whole time. And it could end here, you know, as they drive off. You know, like some stories do, you could technically pick it up, but you don't have to. But I'm probably willing to bet that there will be a continuation of the story with Moon Knight to come. Plus, you know, there's no way, as of when this does continue, that with there literally still being, you know, an avatar of vengeance for Khonshu, a literal Moon Knight, even if Jake Lockley is the Moon Knight and Marc and Steven believe there is no Moon Knight anymore, I have no more powers, he's still going to wake up knackered, he's going to be tired, he's going to feel like he's been hit by a bus, as Steven said in episode 1. There's no way Khonshu and Jake can just pretend like Steven and Marc aren't going to be aware that there's still missing gaps in time. I know it can be argued that it's to protect the travelers of the night, so Jake and Khonshu will only go out during the night, but he's still going to be knackered. Just, it's kind of like repeating the story of Steven trying to be aware of Marc going out at night. So that would definitely be picked up on in season 2, episode 1, or something like fishy things going on. That's definitely interesting to explore. So overall, guys, you know, this finale, I did enjoy it. I just felt like it wasn't solid for me, despite it being very entertaining. I definitely enjoyed where it left off with the whole Jake Lockley thing. I'm glad they actually gave that to us. I can envision so many things for season 2. We even had like a god die as well. I can't remember the guy's name, but Layla witnessed it. But there's still so many gods on the wall, Egyptian gods and Arishabtis, who can come back for season 2 as well. I do feel like there were weak moments, as I said. It's just like, I not that things need thorough explanation, but when things just aren't really explained at all, and just they just kind of come across as contrived. So like when we had Arthur just rush into the Pyramid of Giza control room, if you will, the god room, and just wipe out all the other gods when he wasn't even the avatar at that point. Things like that, I just feel like I really just glossed over. But other than that, you know, it was enjoyable, but I wouldn't call it the best finale still. Just like a lot of MCU Disney Plus shows, I feel like they don't always nail it. But it was still decent enough, and I'm definitely wanting more Moon Knight, that's for sure. But what did you guys think of the finale for Moon Knight? Let me know down in the comments below. I read every single comment. Let me know your theories as well. Let me know if you disagree with me, if you have anything to expand upon some of the things I commented about. But other than that, would really appreciate a like. I also released a Kenobi trailer 2, official trailer, breakdown and reaction today video, so definitely check that out. Would love to hear your Star Wars thoughts on that. But everybody, thank you so much for watching. I hope you all have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you people of the Marvel Cinematic Universe in the next video. Goodbye.